and welcome to another episode of Mindset Over Matter. I'm your host, Gabby Gooding, and today I am so pleased to be with our guest, Mariana Santos. Mariana was introduced to the Brazilian approach to dance, fitness, and lifestyle when she moved to Brazil as a teenager. This experience propelled her to a career in fitness as a personal trainer and group fitness instructor for the past 19 years. She's the co-founder and CEO of Brazili Fitness, which aims to help fitness instructors advance their careers and transform more lives by boosting confidence from the inside out through the magic of Brazilian music, dance, fitness, and lifestyle. So welcome, Mariana. I'm so happy to see you again and to have you on the show.
I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. So to start off, I'd love it if you could just share your story in your own words and how it is that you got inspired to do the amazing work that you're doing today.
Yeah, so I guess we'll have to, go back to when I was a teenager. So, my parents are Brazilian, but I was born and raised here in Canada. So, I didn't really speak Portuguese as a kid or anything like that. But when I was 14, my dad got a job in São Paulo, Brazil. And so we, had no choice. We moved there and I had to finish high school there. I had to learn Portuguese. And at the time, I was a little overweight. I was that kid in gym class who hated sports. I was always, the last one chosen for teams and things like that. So just being introduced to the Brazilian approach to fitness at the gyms and different dance classes and things like that really opened my mind up to different possibilities that I could take care of my body and my health that didn't include sports. So it was really life-changing for me because it helped me to break out of my shell and boosted my confidence. So when I came back to Canada, I was like, this is what I'm doing. I need to help people find, their happiness and joy through fitness.
I will say that resonates with me a lot because I also, growing up, was not one to, honestly, I didn't even really enjoy sports that much. It just wasn't my thing. And so I thought, okay, I got a little sad at one point. I thought, does that just mean that I'm never going to be an active person? Is that just kind of part of my identity?
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I thought, like,
sports were like the end all be all.
Yeah. And so it just sort of felt like, okay, well, if these are my only options, I don't really like any of them. So I guess I'm just not active. But later on in high school, thankfully near the end, they started introducing some typical like gym, like weightlifting, I guess, and different types of things there. So I liked that. But then even beyond that, when I studied kinesiology in university, I actually took a course, and this will stick with me forever. I can't remember what it was called, but we were talking about how we can get people to actually stick with their exercise regimen for longer. And in a nutshell, it was basically, there's no right type of exercise or wrong type of exercise. It's anything that'll get you active that you're actually going to stick with, and you're more likely to stick with it if you enjoy it and you feel good while you're doing it.
I completely agree.
When my clients would ask me, well, what's the right thing? Do I have to start running? Do I have to this? Do I have to that? I'd always say, you don't have to do anything. Whatever you enjoy doing and you feel good doing, stick with that as your activity. So I'm sure you can relate to that part too.
Yeah. And it's actually it's so great that you're touching on this because obviously I've been a personal trainer for 19 years. I know, the science and strength training and how important it is, of course, right? But I find that there are some personal trainers out there who have this tunnel vision, right? It's like, you must strength train. And it's like, they don't realize that you need to meet people where they're at, right? If people haven't done any kind of exercise before and they find strength training to be the most boring thing in the world, that's not what's going to get them excited to start moving, right? So find something that is fun to them, it's sustainable to them. And once it becomes a habit in their life, then slowly introduce strength training, right? But don't push things that they're not going to enjoy from the get-go, because then we're not really helping them. And I think that some fitness professionals, because they've been active for long and it's just part of their life, they have a hard time doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think that there seems to be fewer options or maybe less encouragement for trying different types of recreational activities, physical activities as adults. I think there's a lot of different options, it seems, when you're a child or a teen. And then once you enter into the adult world, it's like, okay, well, if I want to be active, I have to go to the gym or I have to go for walks or runs, because that seems to be just what everybody does. but I'm learning, this was a learning for me actually
Mhm.
moving from a relatively small town to Toronto now in Canada, big city with, lots going on. There are actually
Mhm.
lots of adult rec leagues for different sports, even and sports that I've never even heard of. I learned about kickball the other day, and I thought, well, isn't every sport kind
Oh.
of kick the ball? Like, what is that? I don't know. It didn't really,
Yeah.
didn't really intuitively make sense to me.
Yeah.
But apparently, it's some kind of cross
Well,
between baseball and soccer. I don't know. But it's interesting, and you just don't. There's not enough of a push maybe for these types of things where maybe I would love kickball if I tried it. And that's
mhm.
what would keep me active. So I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind for sure. So you discovered this Brazilian dance as a great outlet for yourself. And I'm just wondering if
Mhm.
you could just tell us a little bit more about what inspired you to take it that step further, where you then thought, like, I have to share this with other people. I have to start a business around it. Like, why was it so impactful for you that it inspired you to take that next step?
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, when I was 18, I came back to Canada, went to college, started working as a fitness instructor, and I started to really miss Brazil. And to be honest, our time adapting to winters again after being away for 3 years. And I've never been a winter fan. Like, I don't know if I'm like a great Canadian in that sense. But yeah, so I'm 25, nothing's holding me back. And I just ended up going back to Brazil by myself. And yeah, just like got deeper into the culture, started taking even more dance classes. And actually, through one of the classes that I took, I met my husband. So that's how we really connected, because we both love Brazilian music and Brazilian dance. And about almost 5 years ago now, like I came back to Canada and I brought him to the cold, because, we started thinking about having kids and things like that. But I already had that idea in my mind. I was like, you know what, like people just need to like get to know Brazilian music. They need to like feel like how it just makes you feel sexy and confident. And I remember even back in the day, like I used to for a while, and I would always throw in Brazilian songs here and there, even though it's not like at the time it wasn't so common. And I would always be like, oh, like, are people going to like this? They've never heard it before. And they always turned out to be my most requested songs. So I was like, you know what? Like, people like it. They just haven't heard it before. Right. And yeah, so it's just like I had this idea about 5 years ago. And, like when you have this like really big idea, you're like, okay, I want to do this. It's like, I don't know, like it depends on your faith. But for me, it's like, okay, God, like I know this is what you want me to do, but with what money, with what resources, like how am I going to make this happen? So I put it off for a couple of years, and obviously, COVID hit. And within that time, I also got pregnant, had my daughter. And once she was old enough to go into daycare, this is what I was like, this is it. Like, this is what I'm doing. And so I decided to go all in just about almost a year and a half ago. So that's where I was like, you know what? Like, I know this is my mission. Like, I know I need to share this with the rest of the world. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I know that this is why I'm here. So I need to try my best.
That's awesome. And good for you for listening to that voice, right? Even if it's a small idea, I would say you called it a big idea, but
Mhm.
even if it's a small idea, I feel like if it just won't leave you,
Yes.
there's the reason for that. And so I think people have a hard time sometimes figuring out what their calling is, or you can call it your purpose or whatever. I think that is one of those cues where we can kind of say, okay, there's something to this. Obviously, it's not going away. It's not like a fleeting
Mhm.
idea, and it's something that I should pursue. So good for you for doing that. And I have to say, from what I've seen online, your energy is contagious, and so I have full faith that this is going to fully take off for you because, I from what I can see, like I see what energy I think you saw when you went and were first exposed to all of this. So make sure you keep it going because it's
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it because, starting off a business is, there are a lot of moving pieces, and sometimes you start to question like, okay, I'm putting all this out there, and like, is my message really landing? Do people even see me, because it's like so much competition on social media and everything, right? So, and like, we're just like a small fish in the sea. And sometimes it feels like like you're a little bit invisible, right? So just hearing that feedback, and like every time I hear that, I'm like, okay, great. Like, people see what we're doing, and, and that's just part of it, right? And like we'll build momentum slowly. But yeah, like I think that everyone has, like, I completely agree. I think that everyone has, like, like you said, it could be a calling or a purpose or just something that would make them feel more fulfilled in life. And I think that, like, if it weren't for me starting to dance in Brazil, like I said, I was super shy, self-conscious. Like I hated public speaking. Like I was like seriously like super, super quiet. And I don't think I'd be here today, like going after my dreams if I hadn't started dancing, right? And so that's what I used as a tool to boost my confidence. Like, yes, it made me feel great, but it also made me believe in myself more, right? And I think that that's what's missing in the dance fitness world. There's like this too much focus on like, this is the class that burns the most amount of calories. And like, yes, you're going to burn calories. Like that's just, but in my opinion, of all the other amazing benefits dance can offer you, that's probably one of the least important, right? So like I want people to come to our Brazilian dance class and just feel like they're getting better over time. They're proving to themselves that they can do things that they once were thought were too challenging. Just, building that belief in themselves so that they one day they're like, you know what, like I've been putting this on hold for a while. Like I'm just gonna go and do it. So that's the end goal. Like I want more people out there chasing their dreams, because I think ultimately, like, and it has nothing to do with like making money or anything. It's like ultimately, if you're chasing your dreams, you will have a happier life, right? And that's what I want for people.
No, 100%. And I'm so glad that you brought that up and put it that way, because I know I've heard you, even last time we talked, you talked about how you want to impact people through dance to boost their confidence so that they can go and follow their dreams, right? Their dream doesn't have to be pursuing dance necessarily, because
No.
they're be different than yours. That's fair. But the confidence that they get from doing the one thing kind of transfers over to another. And I think this is so important. I just wanted to spend a minute on it because it's absolutely true that this works. Like it has been proven. It's almost a way of like confidence hacking yourself to help you in other parts of your life. It's a legitimate thing. What I remember learning in university when I took some psych classes, and they taught us about a thing called self-efficacy, which is loosely defined as basically just your belief, the belief in your ability to be able to do things or accomplish things. Right. And so they said even back then that by successfully doing things in one area of your life, it actually gives you that confidence to accomplish things in other parts of your life, which is exactly what you were saying. So for any listeners that are thinking that maybe dance isn't for them, first of all, I would say don't discount it so quickly, because it's so much fun. Our bodies are built to move, and we actually have a deeply primal connection to music and to rhythm, which all contributes to why it feels so good. So it might be worth trying, but even if it's something else, right? I think, Mariana, you might agree that whatever that thing is for people,
exactly,
whatever it is that gives them that confidence, even if it's super, super small, it does grow, it builds on itself, and then it also transfers to other parts of life. So I feel like making sure that we keep those extra things a priority in our life, even when we get busy with regular work and other things, should be a priority, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, I think that just forcing ourselves to step out of our comfort zones, like, is one of the best things we can do, right? And I think that sometimes people, like with dance specifically, what I hear is like, oh, I don't know how to dance. It's like, well, yeah, like you maybe don't know how to dance yet, right? But I also didn't know how to dance like when I first started, right? And I think that that's the thing. It's like just being okay with being a beginner again, right? Like sometimes like we have like some people have like really successful careers. They're just like really good, like they're used to being good at what they do, right? So getting them back to like beginner level is challenging for them, right? So, but the thing is, like, I'm a firm believer that the best way to boost confidence is to do hard things, right? It's to prove to yourself that you can do those hard things. Like, so that's why even the way that our class is structured, like, there are some songs that are easier to follow, but we have purposely implemented some songs that are forced to make you think. Like you're supposed to like think, okay, which arm, which leg, right? But for those songs, like we stop and we preview the combos, just to get away like that resistance of like, oh my God, what is this, right? Once the song starts. But what we found is that people actually find that less intimidating, even though our choreography is a little bit, let's say, like more elaborate than Zumba, for example, they find our classes less intimidating because we take that time to preview, and because they notice that everyone's just learning it together, right? Like no one's getting it perfect the first time, and that's not even the goal. Like we want you to come back class after class, improve. Like I remember when I started dancing in Brazil, even especially more like the second time when I went back at 25, I was like so obsessed with like the classes and stuff. So I would go home and practice moves that I wasn't nailing in class. Like I would practice in front of the mirror, and then I would like be so excited to test it out again at the next class. So that's kind of like what we want. It's like, just like little progress from class after class, like you against you, like not competing against anyone else in the class. Because like you said, like when you do that, you start to believe in yourself more, right? And that's like important for anything that you're trying to accomplish in life, right? And like you said, the dance doesn't have to be the only way, right? But I think it's one of the most fun ways. But I'm part of a local networking group here in Ottawa, and there's a lady there she really struggles with public speaking. She's really quiet, and because we have these meetings every 2 weeks, and every 2 weeks we have to get up and talk about our businesses, and like the progress that I've seen in her public speaking just in like the few months that I'm in this networking group is amazing, just because like she's getting out of her comfort zone. Like she knows that she has to talk about her business, and just that in itself is helping her, right, to boost confidence. So there's so many different ways. You just have to find what works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you said that they basically have to be hard things that you try, because if you try something that you're already good at or that's too easy, how is that going to give you confidence? Like you basically already have that level of confidence. And well, a saying that I used to say all the time is new levels come with new devils in a way, right? Like you have to,
yes,
you're trying to level up, you have to face something that's a little bit more challenging. And then because you did, I think the key to it is that you've done something that you didn't think you could do, right? If you already know that you can do it, it's not going to provide that much value for you confidence wise.
No.
And then the other part to it as well, I think, is that I think when we have these activities that I would assume for most people are typically done outside of their work, right? It would be like a outside of work hobby or something that they enjoy. For me personally, if I go to a dance class, because I also love to dance, or even if I'm at the gym doing some regular strength training, I notice that if the weights are too light or if the dance is too easy, I'm actually not able to disconnect as much from my day-to-day work because it's mindless still. Like the task at hand, my weights that I'm lifting are too easy, so it's mindless, and I'm not actually able to disconnect fully and kind of refocus on me. So I actually have to push a little bit harder. So now I'm using all of my mental capacity and my physical capacity to kind of be in the flow, I guess, of what I'm doing in the present moment. It allows me to be present, I guess, is what I'm getting at, and disconnect from everything else. So I think there's almost an extra benefit to doing the harder version of things, right? For that reason as well.
That is such a good point. And I think that as a society right now, we're really struggling. Just learning how to be present is such a skill, and it's something that can really, help you, right? Just enjoy life more and appreciate the little moments. So yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, that's why like we do stop to cue and things like that, because it's like that hyper focus is there, right? Now you're looking, okay, so the instructor's doing this, that you're trying to follow along. So that way, like if you're not focusing, you won't be able to follow along, right? So it really kind of forces you to just be in that moment. Like that's your moment for yourself. Like, we get like a lot of moms who rarely have time for themselves, right? And that's their moment to feel like, okay, who they were before they had kids, right? Like, cause you're still like a human being, you're still you, right? And you're not only the mom identity, and right. So and that's so important. And so that's like the opportunity for them to just reconnect with themselves.
Yeah. And it's honestly, for me, it's so awesome to just be able to go to a dance class. And I honestly don't have to come prepared at all. I mean, if I had the time to practice at home, my moves in the mirror, I totally would too. But if I don't, I know that I can literally just show up as I am. The choreography is taken care of. We've got caring instructors that will stop and go through everything that we need to know. Basically, it's just such a wonderful atmosphere, zero judgment. You look around the room and literally everyone's there just to show up for themselves. And it's just such a beautiful place to be. So, I mean, on behalf of anyone on the other side of your dance classes, thank you for providing that kind of people, because it's so important and it's so wonderful to experience.
Oh, that's great to hear. And you have to find what is that thing that makes you tick. It's been Brazilian music, right? But everyone's different. I'm now, if I go to a party that doesn't play Brazilian music, I'm like, this is boring. I don't even dancing to it because I've become just so addicted to Brazilian music. But that's me, right? We all have our different things, right? So I think that's the secret, is just finding that music that really speaks to you, those styles that really speak to you.
For sure. And you're not going to find that thing unless you try new experiences, right? And put yourself in new places. So that's great. Now, I know you've mentioned something to me before about how your classes are structured a little bit differently. And even today you mentioned that you'll purposely throw in some harder songs with maybe a bit more challenging choreography, that the idea is that week over week or class by class, you're kind of building right on the skill and on the dance, and you're kind of working towards something greater. And it kind of makes me think about something else I've heard you talk about, which is you called it the damaging effects of instant gratification. And so I'm wondering if you have some thoughts to share about how those things are related, and what's the solution, I guess, or what's the benefit of approaching life in a different way, where we're maybe trying to get away from a bit of the instant gratification cycle that we're so used to.
I think it's great that we have all this technology that's come to really help us. But we can't ignore the things that have happened that because of technology too, right? We're just getting used to having things at a snap of a finger, right? If you want food and you don't feel like cooking, you can just get your phone and have it delivered to you in 20 minutes, right? And that's very scary, right? Because there are certain things in life that, fitness and taking care of your health, no one's gonna be able to do that for you. At the end of the day, technology can advance as much as possible, but no one's gonna grab you and make you exercise and eat better, right? At the end of the day, you need to learn how to do that for yourself. And if you're constantly looking for that quick reward, and that's going to be very difficult, because fitness is not something that you do for the short term, right? It's something that it has to be part of your life, and there has no you don't put an end date to it, right? I'm just going to work out until the end of the year, right? And then go back to my old habits. That makes no sense. And when we start working out, and I think a lot of people are really unrealistic, right? There are a couple of things here, right? They haven't done anything for years, right? And then they get super motivated. This is it, New Year's resolutions, for example, right? And then they join a gym, and then they go way all out, right? They're all of a sudden they're at the gym 5 days a week. And then after 2 weeks, they're yeah, this is enough. And then they just stop, right? Because they just didn't progress slowly enough. So that's not sustainable, right? They start to encounter a lot of resistance from their brain telling them is this really what you want? Because your brain is designed to keep you safe. So that, since that isn't part of your life yet, it recognizes that new habit as something unsafe, right? So it's going to try to convince you not to do it, even though it is in your best interest. So really learning how to ease into things at a much slower pace is much more sustainable. And so that's the thing too. It's and there's that, and there's also the side of I've been working out for 2 weeks. Why haven't I lost 20 pounds yet? And it's well, how long did it take you to put on those 20 pounds? Right. And so people are just expecting things way too quickly with very, and that's again, instant gratification. So just reminding the things that are worthwhile in life, the things that really matter, they require discipline, they require work, and they just require consistency. And, like I said, there are things that no one can do for you. Even if you hire the most expensive coach, most expensive personal trainer, you're still going to have to show up for those sessions. You're still going to have to do the workouts, right? You're still going to have to, follow some sort of a meal plan if you want the results that you're going after, right? So I think that that's something that we need to be more mindful of. Like just the lack of patience is something that's very damaging. And I think like right now in the fitness industry, there's a lot of talk about active aging programs like for seniors and things like that, which is great. But there's very little talk about how do we get the younger generation moving, like how do we excite them, like how do we get them like in the doors of the gyms right now, and if we don't think about them now, I think that like they're going to be in a way worse situation than our current seniors, because like just because of this reason, right? Just like even work ethic, right? Like younger generations, like they don't understand that like if someone's going to pay you, like they expect you to work, you know. And so it's not affecting just like, you know, fitness, it's affecting like real life, right? Like all of this you know, this need to have everything kind of handed is I think it's going to have like really damaging effects down the road.
Yeah, and I love that you said that, because that's actually what I thought of as you were talking, even about the fitness side of things. I immediately thought too that this instant gratification problem also applies to careers, right? People get very impatient when they're not promoted fast enough, or, you know, it seems like the average amount of time that people will stay in a role is like 6 months or something before they feel like they're ready for the next role. And you know, even my parents' generation, and actually my grandparents' generation was even worse. Well, worse in the sense that they would stay in roles longer, right? You'd have the one job, you stayed there for 40 years, and then you had your pension and you retired. Like there was no career switching. Versus now, it's like if I don't get what I want immediately out of this, I'm moving on. And it's what kind of compounds the problem too is that we're also, thanks to, I guess, technology and the internet and social media and everything, we're more aware of all the other options that we have. And so it makes it easier to say, well, I'm going to give up on this because I could go do that. And same happens with relationships, even, I would say. I'm no relationship expert, but I know that it's how often do we stay and actually work through things and give it time and actually commit to those little changes, right, that build on each other to improve a relationship. We don't. We say, well, there's dating apps, I'm out, whatever, there's other options.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really sad, you know, like, because I mean, relationships are full of ups and downs, no matter what. Like, even if you met your soulmate, like, there's going to be work involved, right? You're going to have to learn how to meet him or her, like, where they're at, like, deal with your differences. And, you know, if you're constantly chasing, like, looking for that perfect person, you're just not going to find it. Like, none of us are perfect, right? And so, you know, that can lead to, you know, depression, loneliness, like so many different things, right? And just feeling like you don't belong, right? And yeah, like this is what I mean. Like, this is such a subject that's so like, it's so like concerning to me. Like, I'm so passionate about it because it's like I really see it being a big problem down the road if like if we're not more aware of it, right? And I think that's the first step, is awareness. Like, and actually I posted something the other day, and someone said, like, actually, you know what? I've noticed, like, I've been really impatient in traffic. And like, I don't have, even like when I listen to podcasts, I put it in like 2 times the speed because I don't have time. Like, I tell myself that I don't have time to listen at regular speed. And it's like, that's what's happening. Like, and people are doing these things without really noticing, right? And they're just like this constant state of like anxiety of like, let's do it as fast as possible, right? And it doesn't really need to be that way.
No, it doesn't need to be that way. And actually, I heard about something recently called dopamine detoxing. I don't know if you've heard of that, but I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory in the sense that all of this instant gratification, really what's happening is that we're getting these dopamine hits, and we kind of become addicted, truthfully, right? We are addicted to dopamine hits at a chemical biological level, right? And so we now have to, if we care to take care of that, because we realize that it's a problem, we have to actually actively step away from the things that give us those dopamine hits. So, you know, turning off your notifications for apps. I've done that, right, on maybe Facebook or Instagram, where it doesn't, whatever, it's still, my account is still active, but I will decide when I go in and I can follow up on things. It's not like I'm constantly getting those hits, right? Taking a step away from social media, or the harder things, I think, are the more meaningful things, which are the ones we talked about, like our fitness and our career and our relationships. It's moving
Mhm.
away from fad diets. And it's so interesting to me because for years, I mean, you go all the way back to probably even before this, but in my lifetime, the first one I ever heard of was like Atkins, from the
Mm.
90s or the 80s, right? And onward, like there's been so many different fad diets and things that have come through, and we know they don't work, and yet we still do them. It's just like
Yeah.
it's impossible to change in us, I think, biologically as a permanent solution. But I think to your point, if we're just aware of it and we can manage it better, uh,
Mhm.
I just, I really think also that it's a very important thing to keep in mind, going forward, because it only perpetuates itself, the problem, right? It's never going to
Yeah.
get better unless we do something about it. So back to your work that you do and just fitness in general, it is important to have something in your life that you can chip away at and build on,
Mhm.
and something that is difficult and that's not going to come immediately, and embrace that as something that's
Mhm.
actually going to help you, and not something that's frustrating because it's taking a long time, right? I think that's a hard mindset shift to
Yeah.
get into, but super important.
Yeah, and just learn to have fun with it, right? Like just be like I tell people all the time in classes, like if you didn't get the move down, freestyle, like whatever, do whatever
Yeah,
you want for that move. If like that move is just really not landing for you,
true.
and just have fun, like make it yours, like make it into a party, right? And I think that's the secret too. Like if you're working on something that's big and scary, you're gonna encounter hurdles, right? So like, how can you find things that keep you motivated and keep you engaged, right? And that just comes like even if you have like okay like I want to lose 20 pounds, I'm sick of it, like I like you're gonna have days you just don't feel like working out. There are days that you're just gonna want to eat junk, and like that's fine like once in a while, but like you need to be able to get back on to
Mhm.
like your schedule the following day. And I think that's what people don't understand. It's like didn't eat well yesterday and all of a sudden like goes the rest of the week. And that's the mentality that kills us. It's not that one off day that you didn't eat well, right? And it's just that like when you allow that to keep going, right? So that's what people need to learn. It's like you're gonna hit some bumps in the road, but you need to be able to get back on. So be okay with failure, right? Like fail, get back up, fail, get back up, and
Yeah.
that's the only way forward, really.
That is such a hard lesson to learn. Well, it was for me, because, and I would hope that other people can relate to the struggle. At least it's not just me. But I find that I still have a bit of a hard time with this sort of all or nothing mindset.
Hmm.
Right? It's very challenging to say, okay, yeah, I ate a bad meal. Like, okay, or I ate poorly today. I'm going to try again tomorrow. Or even I tried to challenge myself to say, okay, I didn't start my day off right because maybe my breakfast wasn't ideal. Let's try
Hmm.
better at lunch, right? Let's try to do better at lunch, or let's try to do better at
Hmm.
dinner time. Um, and and not just throwing away the whole day or throwing away the whole week. I'm sure you see a lot of this in the fitness industry,
Yes.
well, just like I did, is a lot of my clients would say, well, I'm just going to start on Monday, or oh, I'm just going to wait till the first of the month, because, or the first of the year is the major one we all see, with New Year's resolutioners and everything. And it doesn't have to be that way, right? Because I think we're making it seem like a bigger hurdle than it needs to be, when if we
Yeah.
can just have a little bit more flexibility with ourselves, and understand that all all of our success is really just a combination of our little decisions that we're making along the way. And if we make one decision that's not
Mhm.
ideal, or that takes us maybe a step back from our goal, we can also make our next decision be better, and take us a little bit closer to the goal. So I think from a mindset perspective, that was a big learning for me. I'm hoping other people can relate to that too, because it seems to be a struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a book that I'm reading. I don't remember the author's name, but it's called Grit.
Yes, I have
Basically,
that.
like the talks about all these studies they've done about the most successful people are not necessarily the most talented, right? There is so they say that grit is a combination of passion and perseverance, right? It's that like you keep going even though you don't feel like it, even though you've had some and you just find a way just to keep going. So those tend to be the most successful in all areas. So like they've done numerous studies, like in schools, in, you know, sport teams and things like that. So it's interesting, right? Because I think a lot of times, like, we're so quick to say like, oh, I'm just not talented at that, or like I wasn't like a genius. So like, and then we just think like, oh, okay, it's almost easier, right, to think that way, because then you realize like, then it's like, oh, then what's the point, right? It takes away the pressure from you. So it's dangerous too, right? Because sometimes, like you said, like sometimes we have that little calling in our heart and we just don't listen to it because we think we're incapable, or we think like that's for other people, and we think like, well, who am I to do something like that? It's like, well, who are you not to do something like that, right? Like, what makes other people special and not you, right? And I think we're all special, and we all have that one thing that, you know, we're meant to do here in the world. And I think it's, you know, up to us to discover what that thing is and how we can help people with it.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And it's so interesting to me that even just starting out with the topic of dance and your passion for dance, we unpacked all of these other things that are so relatable for
Yes.
literally everybody, right? And I think it's such an important conversation to have, and I'm so grateful for your time today to do this, because I think that we take these little things in life for granted, where we don't really maybe understand the impact that engaging in these positive activities can really have on the rest of our life. Like, maybe we don't even realize that all these things are happening or all these extra benefits are coming out of it, but they really do. And so super awesome that you're doing that kind of work. And so I have one last question, just because I'm so curious with everybody that I speak to hear, what is a life lesson that you wish that you knew sooner in your life that you'd want to maybe share with others?
I think like I wish I had started dancing earlier, actually, like because I didn't start doing dance until I was like maybe 16, 17. So I feel like maybe if I had started as a kid, but not much of a choice, right? My parents like kind of decided things back then, but I would have loved to start dancing earlier, right? So I could have, you know, better technique and things like that. That's one thing that I wish I had just started dancing earlier. And then besides that, like, I just wish I didn't waste so much time, like, thinking so much about what other people are going to think about me. And that's one thing that I really learned in Brazil. Like, some people, like, you know, in Brazil, you can go to a beach and like very rarely will you see a woman wearing a bathing suit unless they're like 80, 90 years old. It's like everyone wears a bikini, like no matter the shape or size. And it's like, and they're tiny bikinis, like they're not, they leave very little to the imagination, and they just don't care, right? They're like, they find a way to be comfortable in their own skin. And I think I've always like struggled with that a little bit. And like, I'm learning that, like, you know what, like, the people who really care about me, they're not going to like worry about little things like that. And sometimes like you, even like when you're putting yourself out there on social media and things like that, you're like, well, what is, you know, like, what are they going to think? Like, you know, oh, who does she think she is to start a business on her own? And like, you know, you have those moments. And I think that maybe if I hadn't listened to that little voice, like, oh, like, you know, the people who were like, I shouldn't even care about, really, like, maybe I would have started my business even sooner, right? But I also believe that things happen when they're supposed to happen. So I think that, you know, I started when it, you know, it was really time. And yeah, so I think that just like, those are the two things, of like starting dancing earlier, and also just like caring less about what people think of me.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's so great. And I know that that's one that a lot of people say, though, especially the one where, well, probably both, but the one about not caring what people think. There's a quote, I think it's Dr. Seuss maybe, or one of these, that said, people who matter don't care, and people who care don't matter. Right.
Exactly.
And I think that's
and that's it.
It's exactly it, right? If they're gonna care, if they're gonna judge, those aren't the people that you want to be listening to anyway. Because another one that I like to tell myself, or that I remind myself of, is that if everybody likes you, you're probably doing something wrong. Or if nobody has opinions, you're probably doing something, or you're living too small, right? Because as soon as you start living big, I think there's going to be someone who's bothered by it. maybe because they wish that they also followed their dream. And there's some little part of them that's maybe resentful watching somebody else, live their dream. And so you could be doing literally nothing wrong, and still some people might be bothered. And so it's never worth it to let that hold you back.
Yeah, there's a quote that it's actually a Brazilian saying that I like to remind myself of. It says, I'm going to translate it, but it says like, not even Jesus pleased everyone. So who am I to even try? So and it just puts things into perspective, right? Like when we try to please everyone, really like we're not being true to ourselves, and then especially in the business world, you end up not calling in the people who are meant to be part of your world because you're too scared to draw lines in the sand, right? And to really stand up for what you believe in. So that's why even with our program, right? I could have very easily decided to make our program as easy to follow as possible, but I don't believe in that. I believe that there needs to be a challenging aspect. And it's not like, oh my God, you're going to have to do handstands and cartwheels in my class. It's nothing like that. But there is you will be challenged, right? But that's part of what makes it fun. And you just have to go with the flow with it. So, it's very big to just be true to what you believe in. And, are we going to be for everyone? No, that's okay. But there are other options for other people. So I'm just going to focus on the people that I'm meant to serve.
Oh, 100%. And there's literally no business out there that is everything for everyone, right? Every business has their niche market. Some of them cast a wider net than others, but it's literally never for everybody. So
exactly.
A little reminder to the business owners out there. That,
yes.
that's okay, for sure. So just on the topic of business in general, Mariana, just to kind of start maybe wrapping up, I want to make sure to ask, what do you have going on in your business right now? Is there a place that our listeners can go to learn more about you, your work, and follow along with all the awesome things that you're doing?
Yes. So our website is a good place to start. So brazilifitness.com. Literally just Brazil with a Y at the end, fitness, all one word.com. And you can also follow us on social media. It's Brazili Fitness pretty much everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And right now what we're doing is we're trying to multiply the impact that we have. So we have a course to certify instructors. So if you love the music, you love the vision, you can become a certified instructor and start running your classes and attract your tribe in your area. And we're also now looking to pilot our program at different gyms and dance studios. So any gym owners or dance studio owners who are looking to offer something new on their schedule, we have an awesome opportunity right now to join our team in this pilot program where, there won't be licensing fees or anything like that, just, for jumping on board now and just, introducing the program to your members and, getting feedback and, so that we can make the program better and better every time. So that's what we have going on. We're also participating in World Wellness Weekend, which is an awesome initiative to get people moving all over the world. So that's happening September 15th, 16th, and 17th. So we'll be posting about that on our website, the different opportunities. You'll have to actually take a free class. So here in Ottawa, we'll have one in Montreal. We have a couple Florida, we have one in Bogota, Colombia. So we're trying to get some options out there because, like I said, the idea is to get as many people in the world as possible moving and feeling the Brazilian magic.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be following along. And if there's a class in Toronto, I'll definitely sign up for that.
I'll send you more info later.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And so, like I said before, I would highly encourage anyone and everybody to follow Mariana. Her energy is contagious, to say the least. Her vision is just beautiful on what she's trying to do. So with that, I do want to thank you so very much, Mariana, for joining me today. Thank you to our listeners, of course, as always, for your time and attention. And please make sure that you subscribe and share so that we can get the message out. And also so that we can meet again on another episode of Mindset Over Matter. So with that, Mariana, thank you. And
thank you so much for having me. I could talk about these things all day, every day. So I'll come back whenever you want me to.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much. Take care.
No problem. Bye.